For joining us today. My name is David Baresh. For your awareness, the session will be recorded and I am going to start, and the recording has already started. Welcome to today's presentation featuring Vanguard. You may notice cameras and microphones are turned off, so we may focus on the presentation today. However, you are encouraged to use the chat feature to engage, network, ask questions, etc. All questions that you do ask, I will be here to gather. So there will be a Q&A section sort of towards the end, but feel free to just use that chat feature to connect, maybe post your LinkedIn profile if you want to connect with anybody here through LinkedIn. Post your handshake if you want to connect with anybody on your handshake. But basically, I'll be there to help you out with anything I can. Just so you are aware, please note that for security and legal reasons, participants' use of any AI tool during this event, including Read AI or Otter AI, is prohibited. Or Otter AI, my apologies. Southern New Hampshire University is dedicated to inclusive meeting experiences. If you'd like to enable live captions, select the three dots at the top of Microsoft Teams window and expand the More menu. Choose Language and Speech from the drop-down and click Show Live Captions. Captions will show on your screen as the presenters are speaking during the presentation. We are also presenting using PowerPoint Live. This means you can click any of the hyperlinks I have in this, or any hyperlinks live in the presentation. PowerPoint Live also provides additional accessibility options. You may select the three dots at the bottom of the presentation slides. You'll find a magnify slide option with a minus sign to zoom out or a plus sign to zoom in, a toggle button to view slides in high contrast, or the option to translate the slide text to a preferred language. These features will only affect your individual experience and not the overall presentation. So please feel welcome to use the available accessibility options at your discretion and need. Individuals with accessibility needs requiring accommodations may reach out to the following resources. The online students can contact the Southern New Hampshire University Online Accessibility Center at oac@snhu.edu. That is oac@snhu.edu, or by calling 866-305-9430. Campus students can contact the Campus Accessibility Center, or CAC, at snhu.edu, or by calling 603-644-3118. And Southern New Hampshire University staff and faculty can request accommodations through the resources in Workday or the source. Please note that any requests for CART or live ASL interpreting requires at least 3 weeks advance notice. Before we get started, I do also want to share with everyone that you are welcome to connect with Southern New Hampshire Career Services team. It's an included benefit for all active Southern New Hampshire University students and a lifetime benefit for alumni. Email the team at cocecareer@snhu.edu. Again, that is cocecareer@snhu.edu, or you can call us at 888-672-1458. We can provide support with resume reviews, mock interview practice, job search guidance online, and so much more. You can also visit the Southern New Hampshire University Career 360 page, an engaging self-service career resource provided by Southern New Hampshire University's career team. Make sure to also take advantage of possible connections available through the extensive network available to you as an active Southern New Hampshire University student or as an alumni, including the Handshake Career Platform, the SNHU LinkedIn community, the SNHU Career YouTube page, Facebook, Instagram, SNHU Career X account, and also check us out on SNHU Connect. SNHU Connect is our internal student networking platform that is accessible through My SNHU. And we have some wonderful details here on the page for how you connect with it. I highly recommend it. There are some amazing communities that we have there and some fantastic community managers. Without any further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce your presenter today. Joseph Ferenchiak is a university relations lead with Vanguard. Joseph, welcome. While your slide is up on the screen, if you want to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself, we'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for having me here. And thank you all so much for attending my presentation today. So, yeah, I am Joseph. I'm one of the university relations leads or university recruiters here at Vanguard. I've been on this team for about almost 4 years, actually. And I've been with Vanguard for just over 8 years. So, I joined Vanguard from right after I finished my undergraduate program through Arcadia University down in southeastern Pennsylvania. Started off as a client relationship associate within our call center before moving over into the HR space as an internal intern recruiting for said call center. And then I was able to take that experience to come into where I'm sitting now in university relations. So within my role, I really maintain a lot of the relationships with our core universities. I also help with initial recruiting efforts across all domains, whether it be technology, our call center, finance and accounting, etc. So if it's entry level, chances are I have some type of hand in the pot with it. And so uh, today's presentation, I'll be going into a lot of what our tech opportunities look like at Vanguard, as well as how to go through our recruiting process. So without further ado, I will take over the screen sharing. So before we even get started, though, if you all just take out your phones, you can scan this QR code. This will get you into our talent database. It'll just make it easier for us to follow up with you after today's event. And then say if you do submit an application, whether this evening or even 2 years down the line, we'll be able to see that we've had an ongoing relationship with you. Now, I also have a link to the QR code. So in case if you're watching me on your phone, you can still access that intake form as well. Let's see here. So kind of already alluded to the presentation as well as who I am, but just kind of going through today's agenda, we will begin with just a general overview of Vanguard as an organization before going into the different opportunities we have for students. And then we'll get into more of the professional development topic of how to get hired, how to go through our recruiting process, how to really ace that interview there. And a lot of the information that we'll go over, while it will be geared towards the Vanguard lens, you will be able to benefit from it even if it takes you to another organization. I won't be insulted, don't worry. So, really just kicking things off, going into really why Vanguard, or if you were a client, why would you want to invest with Vanguard? Now, for those of you who may not know at all what Vanguard is, completely understandable. When I was a senior in college, I actually had no idea. Vanguard is an investment firm. We are similar to Fidelity or JP Morgan in that aspect. We're the second largest mutual fund company in the world behind BlackRock. And we really have our hands in all different forms of investing, whether it's the brokerage services, so stock and ETF trading, mutual funds, financial advice, our 401k offer. Really, the only thing that we don't do is we don't do banking. So you can't open a checking or a savings account with Vanguard. Although you can actually open a Cash Plus account, which functions similarly to a savings account, but details. Now, if you were a client, why would you choose to invest in Vanguard? So, really just looking into our mission statement here, our mission is to take a stand for all investors, to treat them fairly, and to give them the best chance for investment success. And we really live and breathe this mission statement really through every decision that we make every day. Now, some of the basic things, of course, are our low cost expense ratios. We are considered to be more of a low cost leader in the industry. We have a very high reputation, a very strong customer service based in the United States, and we have a very strong trust between our clients and our advisors. The clients are really the priority in every decision that we make. And honestly, it really goes down to the very fabric of what makes up our organization. So despite that, we are involved with brokerage trading, so stocks and ETFs and all that. Ironically, we ourselves are not a publicly traded company. You can't actually buy a Vanguard stock like you can, say, Apple, Tesla, Facebook, etc. The way that you would own Vanguard is to own a Vanguard fund. So if you own any Vanguard mutual fund or any Vanguard ETF, you have that proportional ownership in the organization just as you would if you were a stockholder. Now, what the key difference here is, by having our ownership be through our mutual funds, that means there is no third party body of shareholders. Every decision that we make is for the client, because the client is actually who owns us with no conflict of interest. And so that is what motivates us to intrinsically provide a good service at a low cost without cutting corners. And it really rings true. I've been here 8 years and they haven't proven me wrong yet. But so We are a global company. So while our primary operations are in the United States, we do have offices internationally in the United Kingdom, in Australia primarily. Then we also have smaller offices located really around the globe, whether in France, Germany, Mexico, Canada, Japan, etc. And so all that to say, the majority of the operations will be through our US locations, and as well as all the opportunities that we'll be talking about today. But additionally, one other thing that may contribute to why you may not even know who we are is that while we're such a large company, we actually don't have any brick and mortar locations. We have 4 corporate offices in the United States in Malvern, Pennsylvania, that's about 45 minutes west of Philadelphia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Scottsdale, Arizona, and Dallas, Texas. So as employees, we work on a hybrid basis. So we're 3 days in office, 2 days remote. Some more critical functions will be fully in office, and even fewer functions will be fully remote, depending on the type of job at hand. And so uh, all of this really contributes as well to that low cost nature because you save a lot of money on real estate. Now, going into why one would want to work with Vanguard, I always say, take notes, everyone, because the first question that's going to be asked of you in an interview is, what do you know about us? What do you know about our organization? That's going to be true of really wherever you apply. And so this presentation is going to give you a lot of that information up front, so definitely take notes on it. But why work at Vanguard? So at Vanguard, you are seen as an individual, not as a number. And some of the ways that that really is illustrated is that at least one or twice a month rather, you will have a one-on-one meeting with your team leader where they'll go over things like job development, what's going well, what isn't going well. And as you get more tenured within your position, the conversations are going to shift into your career development. Unlike, say, other positions, no matter where you are at Vanguard, there's always that topic of career development. You are never expected to stay within a role for more than a couple of years unless you want to. So your team leader is going to be your number one cheerleader as they help to prepare you for that next step within your journey. And then twice a year, you'll have what's called a skip level meeting where you'll meet with your manager's manager. It'll be a bit more of a formal meeting, but it really gives you an opportunity to discuss what's going well or what may not be going well in a different type of environment. They really want to see what you have to say so that they can make Vanguard better for really all of us. Now, you may start to realize that I refer to us as crew members, and the company is called Vanguard, and you'll notice that there's a lot of nautical terms here. This is actually by no coincidence, and it really plays into the corporate identity. So our employees called crew members, our cafeterias are called the galleys, our on-site gyms are called ship shape, and in our Pennsylvania headquarters, each building is actually named after a different war vessel. So I work in the Morgan building. Our CEO sits in the Victory building. There's the Audacious building, the Swiftsure building, the Neptune building. The list goes on. And all of this is by no coincidence. Our founder, John Bogle, was a huge naval enthusiast, and he believed that Vanguard, the HMS Vanguard, really resonated with leadership and progress. It really showcased that we're all working towards something as crew members, as teammates, towards something that's bigger than ourselves. And yeah, of course, it's for morale purposes. It makes going to work a little bit more exciting, having more of a theme going on around the campus. But at the end of the day, it does really integrate very well into the company's culture. Now, we'll address the elephant in the room, of course. The number one thing you're probably looking at when you are looking at a possible job or career is your compensation. And so at Vanguard, I've really developed this talk track where our compensation package follows you no matter where you are in your career journey. Whether you're just starting out, there are benefits that will attract those who are just coming out of college. As you're deciding whether you want to start a family, we have benefits for that. And then of course we have our 401k, but really going from the beginning, because you guys are students here. So as long as you've graduated within the last 5 years of when you joined Vanguard, you are able to partake in our student loan repayment assistance program. This is as long as you're making your minimum student loan payment, Vanguard will pay up to $100 per month towards your student loan. And there's a $7,200 maximum cap on that, but it really makes a lot of a difference. It actually helped me to pay off my loans. And then furthermore, if you decide to go back to school and obtain your MBA, or say like a relevant tech degree or tech licensing, Vanguard does have tuition reimbursement for said graduate degrees so long as they are relevant to your career path. That's in the amount of up to $9,000 per year, and you can take these programs part-time, so you don't have to really have it conflict with your work schedule. Furthermore, any certification that's required for your job, whether I want to say at the AWS, like the Amazon Web Services certification, or if you're working in finance, like the FINRA licensing, Vanguard will pay for that up in full with no cost to you, whether the study materials, the licensing fees, the continuing education, you name it. And then furthermore, as I alluded to in the previous slide, we have plenty of internal career development resources. Your manager is there to really help you every step of the way as you go through your journey there. Now, as you kind of go throughout your career, say you're deciding you want to start a family, say you want to go through, say, surrogacy, you want to go through fertility treatments or adoption, Vanguard does have benefits aligned with all of that there. So regardless if you're a mother, a father, or even a non-binary parent, we have benefits that will take care of you no matter how you identify or what your journey is going to look like. So we do have parental leave benefits. We have mental health benefits through LIRA. And our health plan does start from day one, so you don't have to go through any probationary period before you're able to start off on our health plan. We use primarily a high deductible plan with a competitive HSA matching program. So when you're putting money into your HSA, Vanguard is contributing on top of that, as well as putting a seed contribution in. So at least in my case, I've never actually had to pay out of pocket for any of my healthcare costs because I was able to take from that HSA fund. Furthermore, we do have our annual wellness stipend called the Flex Fund. You may start to notice that a lot of companies are starting to offer this, and it is a stipend, it's taxable, that is able to be used on certain health and wellness types of benefits. Although I can use it on my Costco membership, a new iPhone. There's like a whole list of things you can and can't buy with it, but it is really handy there because it helps you to pay for things that you normally don't want to or would not normally pay for. And then furthermore, I'll get into the volunteer time off on another slide as I go through our volunteering program there. But moving into our culture, we are a company that really celebrates diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I say that even with the current administration that we're working with here. But the ways that we've celebrated DE&I have always been valid for the past couple decades even. We've had crew resource groups at Vanguard since I want to say before 2010, 2008. We've really found their value within our organization. And the way that we have is multifaceted. You don't have to be a member of the demographic in question to join any of our crew resource groups. Anyone is allowed to join one or all of them. And what they serve to do is to help connect you with those who may have a similar background, as well as those who may have a different background. And what's great is that they can provide you with educational opportunities. They have guest speakers. They have events all throughout the calendar year, whether happy hours, whether networking sessions or coffee chats. I'm really active with an Open, which is the Out Professional Engagement Network. That's for our LGBT crew members. They'll host occasional ally training for members who may not be LGBT themselves, but may have loved ones who are, and they're just trying to get educated on the different terminology within the alphabet. But then furthermore, let's see, Bold, for example, has programming all throughout Black History Month for Juneteenth. We integrate them within our North Star experiential learning program. The list really goes on what you can do with these crew resource groups. And what's great is that in a company that has over 20,000 employees or crew members, it can really help to make such a large company feel just a little bit smaller. Now, moving into how we give back to the community, we really stand for 3 C's at our organization: the clients, crew, and community. And so I like to break it up into two fashions: the way that we give back to the community on the individual crew member level, as well as on the organizational level. So going into the individual crew member level, how you yourself could give back. Each crew member is given a day of volunteer time off, or VTO, as I was mentioning in that previous slide, which is separate from your PTO bank. You're able to go out into the community and volunteer in any way that is meaningful to you. There is no volunteering that's too much or too little in this case because it goes based off the honor system. We don't have any checks or balances with it. So even if you're volunteering for 1 hour or 8 hours, that's completely up to you. And in a lot of cases, teams may take the day off together to do a joint initiative. And I know throughout my tenure at Vanguard, I've used the time to volunteer with Phil Abundance, which is one of Philadelphia's food banks, the Chester County Food Bank of southeastern Pennsylvania, Cradles to Crayons, and in fact, most recently, I even volunteered at the Philadelphia Flower Show. So there, you really can do whatever it is that you like there. Now, moving into, say, the donation component, of course, we do have the Vanguard Gives Back portal where you are able to make a donation really to any charity that you can think of. And I really mean it is a very exhaustive list. For every dollar that you donate up to $10,000 per crew member per year, Vanguard does match 50%. So for your $10,000, they would provide that the $5,000. And so, again, it can be any charity. I've donated to Planned Parenthood personally, Children's Hospital Philadelphia. So you can donate to the church, you can donate to your university. The list really goes on there. And that's something that makes it really special, is that you can really make it your own. Now, kind of going into how the corporation gives back, this is through a variety of initiatives. I could probably go on for 10 slides if I had the time for it, but I don't. So our signature donation, or our signature campaign, it actually just wrapped up last week. It is the Vanguard Strong Start for Kids campaign. And what this is a campaign that where we had a 5K last week. We had raffle baskets in all the different buildings. We had all these different drives and different initiatives to help crew feel motivated to donate through the Strong Start for Kids fund. And what this fund does is it provides children growing up in poverty in greater Philadelphia, Charlotte, Scottsdale, and London, different resources to help them with school readiness, whether that be through school supplies, whether that be through food or nourishment or other financial resources. It's really an all-encompassing type of program there. And another program, which you'll notice a theme, we really think of the kids at Vanguard. The other signature program that we're known for is the My Classroom Economy, which is where crew volunteers will go into local school districts K through 12, and will provide age-appropriate financial literacy lessons. So K through 3, for example, it'll be really the power of a piggy bank, the power of saving $1 today to have $2 tomorrow, things of that nature to really show the weight and that money can carry. And then as you get into more of the high school lessons, it can really go more so into how to write a check, or what is a bank account, and different ways that can help them as they prepare to enter the real world once they graduate. If they don't end up going to college, they end up going straight to work, then they'll need to have those resources handy so that they know how to function fiscally responsibly. Now, what this slide is showing is just a couple of statistics from 2023. Should probably get that updated, but these are just some of the numbers that we've been able to celebrate for the past couple of years here with our Community 365 initiatives. Any questions so far before I go into student programming? Not seeing anything in the chat, so it looks like I might be good to go ahead.
We do have some that were pre-submitted, but I do
okay.
also we'll save those for the end, but also just wanted to give a general thumbs up for any sort of volunteer time off. I'm a huge proponent of that, and I'm really glad to hear you guys have that.
Absolutely. I try to take it every single year. So yeah, it's really a cool program. So going into student programs here, since I'm sure we have a wide range of students, whether you're in your first year or fourth year, I'll go briefly into all of these just for the sake of time here. But our Explore program is something that I actually host as a university recruiter. And this is geared towards first years and second year students. So when you're a first year student, it's too soon really to apply for any of our internships. You just don't have the experience yet that we're looking for when going into the internship program, since they often can lead to return offers. So what the Explore program aims to do is to educate you. It's a virtual event. It takes place for technology, it takes place in July. It's 3.5 hours. And what it does is it serves to network you with crew members, with participants in our entry-level programs, with recruiters, managers, and really to help you hit the ground running when it does come time to apply for internships. So you'll learn about all the different programs and what they can lead to, and you'll really learn all about what the whole trajectory can look like. And when it comes to applying for internships at Vanguard, we typically hire about a year in advance. So September 1st is when we launched our internships and our rotational development programs for summer 2026. So the early bird really does get the worm, and the Explore programs helps to get you prepared for that. So we can send you an email once the applications go live so you can be first to get your application submitted. North Star's sophomore experiential learning program is geared specifically for second year students, and it's more of an elongated Explore program. It is there especially for underserved minorities, though anyone can really join it, of course. And it's also virtual. But what this does is all of the above with the Explore programs, but we get the CRGs involved, we get guest speakers involved, and we really give you a much larger exposure to what the organization is all about. It may also include interviews for the internships before they even go live. So definitely a solid program to look into if you are currently in your second year. Applications typically go live around, I want to say, February or March. Now, once you're in your third year, this is where I'll go over into our college to corporate internship program. Now, regardless of what track you go into, whether you go into, for at least for technology, there's investment systems, there's risk and security, cybersecurity, data and analytics, tech operations, application development. If I didn't mention that one, I might have. But regardless of what track you go into, this is a 10-week summer program. It is paid. And at least for technology, it is based out of our Malvern, Pennsylvania headquarters, as well as in Charlotte, North Carolina, with a few opportunities available in Dallas. If you are not local, this is a very global school we're working with here. So it's very likely. We do have complimentary housing available through local universities. So in the case of Pennsylvania, it's through Villanova University. It is accessible to our campus by train, so you don't even actually have to have a car. And it's accessible to Philadelphia. So you have really good access both to the office as well as exploring a new city if you're unfamiliar with the city of Philadelphia. With Charlotte, it's through UNC Charlotte. We do have access to the light rail there, and there are shuttle buses that will take you to campus. And then for Dallas, I believe we do have a housing stipend that we give you, since Dallas is a whole different beast in terms of the city layout. Now, with the internship itself, it is a project-based position. You will be in a cohort of other interns within your same track, but you're going to be on a team of full-time employees. So as a result, what that's going to look like is you're going to be doing real work. You're going to be doing a project that was created for you prior to even joining the company. So just as you're applying for the internship, the team in question is applying to receive an intern. And so the work you'll do is going to be very meaningful. Your team is really going to be cheering you on as you complete that project there. You'll be getting plenty of support from your peer mentor, from your team leader, from your program manager, as you're preparing to present your work to senior leadership. Now, if all goes well, the goal is to get you into one of our full-time rotational development programs under the Technology Leadership Program. Now, let's see, I do see a couple of questions here. How does Vanguard help new grads apply classroom learning to real-world fintech problems? So a lot of the tech positions specifically may not necessarily be all that related to finance specifically. I mean, investment systems, of course, cybersecurity can be loosely related. But so what I always say is your classroom is going to teach you the foundations, and your internship is going to teach you how it works in the real world. And you'll notice that there are going to be some solid parallels with that. There's going to be a lot of learning curves you're going to be getting through. It's going to be challenging, for lack of better terms. But so as you're going through, there's plenty of different networking opportunities. There's a whole bunch of meetings that you're going to go to with your cohort. There's a bunch of events that you'll be participating in. So it is very much going to be learning through experience through that internship. Now, in terms of how we're integrating AI and automation into investment platforms, that is actually where the data analytics internship can really come into play. And the way that I always promote AI and machine learning at Vanguard is, it's probably no secret, Vanguard is not known for being the leader in technology in any sense. That's not really what we're here for. So what we're here to do is to make sure that our system is safe to use. And we like to make sure that what we are implementing is sound, to make sure that we're not going to invest all this money into something that's going to blow up in our face and then ruin our reputation. You can look it up. There are lots of major companies that have done just that, and it ended up in lawsuits for them because they let their AI chatbot gave misinformation, and the government had to step in and get involved. I'm not going to name names here, but you might be able to deduce which company I'm talking about there. And so we want to avoid that. Now, to answer the question more directly, we are working on an AI support bot for our website. We are working on and actively implementing AI into the portfolio implementation models. as well as within personal advisor services to help with implementing a portfolio for individual clients. So there's really a number of ways that we're doing this. Now, mind you, I'm not a tech person, so my knowledge of the subject is going to be on more the limited side, but I'll be happy to answer any follow-up question as best as I can. Now, in terms of the transition rates from intern to full-time, we really do strive for 100% conversion. Now, this can depend on a number of factors, depending on performance as an intern, as well as the headcount need for the full-time department. So uh, if the headcount allows, we can convert everyone, but sometimes there may be a couple short that we may not be able to convert. And at that point, it'll be really based on the personal performance within the internship. So while the 10 weeks is, I always say the 10 weeks is basically a 10-week interview. Now, Vanguard's values of fairness and teamwork show up to day-to-day tech projects. This is a really interesting one because since we are a finance company, that culture really bleeds into the technology space. And what I mean by that is even though technology can often be a very heads down type of career path, very individualistic in that sense because it's a lot of coding, Vanguard is very team oriented. You'll typically have huddles at least once a week with your team where you're going to go over all of your projects, metrics, and all of that good stuff there. There's different team building activities and team meetings that you'll go into, but there's also a lot of opportunity for cross-team collaboration, whether on projects that you're completing, or if something comes up that, say, there's a massive system elevation, they need all hands on deck with that. So there can be a lot of flexibility with that. So that's how I kind of answer that in a nutshell there. So kind of moving into how the internship can transition into a full-time program. There's Technology Leadership Program and the Data Analytics Advanced Development Program, which is now being integrated under the Technology Leadership Program. So for all intents and purposes, it's just another track within the program. Now, when promoting this opportunity, I actually like to be a little bit blunt with it. Now, feel free to kindly disregard the MBA development program. I don't know why they put it on this slide. But so Technology Leadership Program, as the name implies, is a leadership development program. You're going to be going through either 3 8-month rotations or 4 6-month rotations in different areas of the tracks that you apply to. Now, all of that to say is, while you're going to be doing a lot of that heads down work, a lot of that hands-on experience, the goal is that you're going to go into more of a people leadership role once you launch from the program after that 2 years is up. So you'll go through those rotations and you're typically going to launch into a people leadership role that would normally take about 5 to 6 years worth of work experience that you're getting in 2 years. So it's very much an accelerated program, but don't worry, we still celebrate a 37.5-hour work week at Vanguard. So it's not like you're going to be working these crazy hours. But not every student wants to go into leadership, at least not directly from college. So when promoting this opportunity, I always ask students, if you see yourself as a leader, if you want to lead teams, if you want to develop crew members, this can be an amazing program for you, since it's going to get you well-rounded experience for you to serve as a servant leader for your team. If you see yourself as more of a specialist, this is where the IT specialized programs are going to come into play. So you don't have to go into leadership development to have a successful career with us. You can go down more of a specialist track where you are just going directly in and doing more of that heads down, hands-on coding work, where it's non-rotational, but you're still getting very solid experience, and you can still use that to go into leadership later on in your career if you so desire, or you can continue down the track of going into more higher level specialist roles in the company. Now, our application engineer technology program, it's a program. So you'll be in with a cohort of other students being aligned to different teams, but it is very flexible. You'll be able to determine as you get closer to your start date, which area of the company that you see yourself going into, what area of technology you'd like to see yourself going into. So don't think that just because it's application engineer that you're locked into just application engineering, if that's not what your passion is. Now, going into the professional development topic for today, I'm going to take it into multiple steps. So we're going to start off with really personal branding, how to conduct yourself on LinkedIn before going into how to format the resume and prepare for a behavioral interview. We'll wrap up with the different types of assessments that we use at Vanguard, as well as how to prepare for a possible case study depending on the opportunity that you're going into. Once again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to use the chat function there. I do have it pulled up here, or we can save them to the end, whatever y'all are most comfortable doing. Now, going into personal branding, now this may be a review for a lot of you. I'm not sure the age demographic I'm really speaking to right now, so I'll just pretend. But so personal branding, this is something that you may be discussing in your classes right now. And I will let you know as you go through your first, your second career, it's something that's just going to become passive. It's not something that you're necessarily going to think about every single day. It's not something that's going to be living in the back of your head. But what you're doing right now is you're going through school. You are addressing a bunch of challenges, whether through your group projects, whether through the way that you show up to class. Now, of course, you all are virtual, so I don't mean to say like showing up in a suit every day versus showing up in sweatpants every day. Uh, that may not necessarily be as relevant. But what you're going to be doing now as you're really preparing to go into your career is how do you want to show up? How do you want others to perceive you? And to give an example, of course, when you're going into the world of work, you're going to notice that you'll have colleagues that are open books. They're going to come in on Monday morning talking all about what they did Saturday and Sunday. You're going to know everything about their personal life. You're going to know everything about their social life. And those people might be a little bit exhausting. And then on the flip side, you might have someone who's just like in the corner doing their day-to-day job and they're just minding their business. They come to work, they're happy with their job, they love their job, they love their team, but largely their life is a secret. You don't know what's happening from 5 to 9 after work. You're not knowing what they're really doing on the weekends. And really both systems of belief are valid. It's really a matter of what you are most comfortable with. And sometimes maybe when you're outside of work, you just like to keep it a secret. You feel like it's not anyone's business. And maybe when you do share about your personal life, it's because you want to be that friend to everyone. You want to be that open book and find those connections there. So whatever you choose, it's just a matter of being intentional with how do you wish to be perceived by others. Now, going into social media, this is really where your brand is going to shine, especially on LinkedIn, less so on other social medias, at least in the professional sense. But so it all starts with choosing an appropriate photo, whether that be a professional headshot or actually the headshot that you saw of me earlier today was taken on an iPhone 10R 4 years ago. So as long as it looks professional, that's perfectly fine. Doesn't have to be a school photo, doesn't have to be a selfie, but it just needs to look professional. Now, photos on your LinkedIn will get you up to 21 times more profile views. It takes away that anonymity from your profile there. Now, in terms of creating the profile for your LinkedIn, I like to treat it like a CV personally, something beyond a resume. I personally have every little bit of experience, both big and small, that I have ever accomplished on my LinkedIn. And the reason why is because there is no maximum character limit. There is no page limit. You can really just lay it all out there. And so I remember I had experience on my LinkedIn from college. I was a music director over a summer at a summer camp like near where I went to college. And I actually had a student reach out saying, "Hey, I noticed that you had this experience. I'm actually doing this summer. I would love to connect and discuss it a little bit and just learn about your experience with it." And honestly, that's what it's all about. Doesn't just because you're forming a connection with someone doesn't mean that they have to necessarily be in the exact role that you're trying to go into. They don't even necessarily need to be in the same industry as you. But having that information on your LinkedIn can spark connections in ways that you really never thought possible. And it could be years down the line. It can always be a little nostalgic, reminiscing about your past in that way. But your professional summary specifically, this is going to be like your summary of qualifications like on the top of your resume there. So that can be where you just summarize, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm currently pursuing, and these are what my goals are to do with either my degree or with my work experience. So you can really make that your own as well. And I highly encourage you to go through the career office as well. I'm so glad that David mentioned that at the beginning of the call. It's something that I sing from the rooftops every single time I do this presentation. Your career readiness office is there to help you every step of the way, whether it's proofreading your resume, preparing you for that interview, or honestly, I don't see why not helping you with creating your LinkedIn if you don't already have one, if you're struggling on what to put on it. Now, of course, you can list your top skills and work experience and you can endorse others. You can provide work examples. But at the end of the day, as a social media platform, your profile is only going to be as well noticed as you are active on it. So you really want to be active on LinkedIn. You really want to treat it like your professional Facebook, like your professional Instagram. take some time out of your day and go through the feed, read through some of the news articles that are coming up, or read about some of your friends or your colleagues' accomplishments, like the posts, react to them, add comments. And this is really going to drive you up on people's suggested connections list, and they can really help recruiters notice you. Since in a lot of cases, recruiters may go through LinkedIn in order to find talent. Now, this slide always makes me laugh. I figured some of this just goes without saying. Clearly, I did not create the slide deck. I figured at that point it's natural selection. If you want to post inappropriate pictures on your LinkedIn or share information about illegal activities, but you know what you all do is your business, and that's yours. But nonetheless, this is where I really like to switch it back to Instagram or Facebook, for example. I personally, my Instagram is public. I have nothing to hide. I've always gone under the notion I don't care if a recruiter tries to stalk my personal social media profiles because my mother follows me. So I already have to have some type of a filter just for that purpose right there. But so if you are someone who is not like me, who does have a bit more private information on your personal social medias, at that point, I would encourage you to consider making your profiles private just to make yourself a little bit less searchable on Google. Again, my job is not to tell you how to live your life. I'm just trying to help you market yourself. But so when it comes to LinkedIn, of course, this should all go without saying. And then it's a little bit more subjective when you're going on the personals. Don't worry, I've never looked up a student's social media, and quite frankly, I never intend to. But just because I don't doesn't mean that other recruiters may not. I'm not sure about Vanguard, but I know that other companies may look into it. And that's really why I bring this all up. Now, moving into resumes. Now, honestly, I'm a nerd for I'm a nerd for resumes. You can see that my character shifted a little bit after I got into this topic track. But so your resume is quite literally an extension of your personal brand. And the way that I like to promote resumes is really different from how your classes may be promoting them. So your classes are going to say, oh, it's all about like the experience and all of that. I say it's a psychological game. You are in it to win it. Your resume, the goal of your resume is to basically trick your recruiter into reading your resume longer than other people's resumes. Not to bring the competition into it, of course, but this is why the details of the resume are so critical, and this is why your professors and why your career office is being so nitpicky, all the way down to the individual periods you're putting onto each line, all the way down to the font you're using, because this is what's really going to make a difference. At the end of the day, your recruiter is going to be looking at the resume for less than 10 seconds. It's plain fact, because they may be going through hundreds of them for a single job opportunity. They may be collecting them from career fairs where the stack may be this thick, you name it. At the end of the day, they're on limited time. And so it's really all about how you catch the recruiter's eye in the most efficient, visually appealing, and subtle way as possible. And so when creating that resume, I always say keep your bullets to one line. Don't have multi-line bullets, and the reason why is because having one line it's gonna be easier for that recruiter to skim through. If there's anything that you can quantify, anything that you can put into a percentage, even if it's a loose percentage, do that, because numbers are going to catch a recruiter's eye better than, say, written out words. So rather than say 20 TWENTY 5, making it 25 will really make that difference there. Now, additionally, the action words, the first word on those bullets, very big eye grabbers there. And that's why you want to say something like assisted on this marketing project that generated a 25% revenue increase, rather than say helped, collaborated, oversaw or managed rather than said led. For example, there. And then, of course, the structure. But above all, and now with technology, of course, it does get to be a little bit subjective with whether you need to have a one-page resume or a multi-page resume. And the way I'll break it down to you is if you are going into an entry-level job, if it's your first job outside of college, that resume needs to be one page. There is not I'm telling you, you don't have the experience to justify having multiple pages. If you have a master's degree, if you have a PhD, if you have published works, this is where a multiple page resume is going to be critical, because you are going to have those summaries of the different experiments that you may have completed, the different publications that you've had. And that's where having multiple pages is going to be critical. But when you're going into entry level, one page is what's going to really be what's really going to suffice. This is my favorite slide on the entire deck. This is from a Business Insider article from years ago. And what it did was it had recruiters use eye tracking glasses and had them proofread a series of resumes just to track their eye movements and track where are they really focusing their time and focusing their efforts on. So these are two different resumes, of course, and this really illustrates the point that I'm trying to get across here. You'll notice that on this first resume, it's really looking at that professional experience and kind of looking at those first words on like those action words within the lines here. But then as you get to this portion where it's like an annotated bibliography, they're really not looking at it. And then furthermore, on this side, they're reading that professional summary. They're reading that most recent work experience. You notice a little bit of a lull in the middle here, but then towards the bottom where it gets to education, their attention has perked back up. And especially if you're going into an entry-level job, I always recommend having education towards the top of the resume, since that's going to really be the first thing that recruiters are looking at, since it's really the most relevant experience. But as you're going to your second or your third job, yes, your education is going to go towards the bottom of the resume, since you're really trying to showcase that relevant work experience rather than just the education bit. Now, as they went through these trials here, the people running the experiment, they noticed that the recruiters were really looking for a graduation year. They were looking for GPA, looking for titles, companies, employment dates, really hard individual details rather than say, what was the body of the paragraphs or what was the description of everything. So really just looking for the dates, the positions, and the numbers. Now, this resume, albeit except for this line here, really showcases also the point I'm trying to get across here. You can find this as well as other resume examples from Princeton University's website. They have a very good resume database that you can get inspiration from if you're looking for a template there and don't want to use ChatGPT. So with this here, you'll see it's a very clean resume. It has our education up top here. It has our work experience with single line bullets, and then leadership and service. So say if you, especially if you have limited work experience, you can really put any type of leadership experience that you have, whether if you are on the admin board of a club on campus or virtually in this case, any volunteering that you do, any skills you have, these can really help to beef up your resume, especially if you don't necessarily have enough work experience. Chances are you have something that's going to be transferable into whatever it is that you're applying. Now, going into interview preparation. All right, we already researched the company. We already know everything we need to know about Vanguard. We already went over the different job opportunities, how to prepare that resume. Now is when we'll go into the interview. Now, I cannot stress this enough. If you are not well read up or well versed on behavioral interviewing, take notes and then also go to your career office, because I'm telling you, star-based interviewing is going to follow you and haunt you for the rest of your life. It really is. Even within my role at Vanguard, as I interview for, say, different positions in the company, we still use behavioral interviewing, even internally. It's not something that you just use when you're entering a company for the first time. Now, what a star-based interview is. A behavioral interview, in case if you are unfamiliar, I'll just pretend, is really you're going to be asked questions that are gauging you on specific scenarios from your work or school past, where you're going to be assessed on how you reacted, how you acted, and what the resolution was at the end of any particular scenario. Really, it's going towards those transferable skills. It's really not assessing you as much on hard skills or hard knowledge. It's really grading you on like your interactions with others, how you handle situations, how fast you learn, things of that nature. And so, of course, STAR stands for situation, task, action, results. So you can use examples, I would always say, within the last couple of years. At this point, don't use high school. Don't use part-time jobs from over, say, 3 or 4 years ago. It's all subjective, of course. So whatever it is that's most appropriate for you, do it. But this is just a general guideline. But so I've over the years have come up with different methods to really have to prepare for behavioral interviewing. And the way that what really stuck to me and the way that I've noticed has resonated very well with students is this exercise that I kind of invented, but not really. Well, I kind of did, but I did it for myself and noticed that it worked on me. So I just passed the wisdom along. And if you're struggling to come up with examples for behavioral questions, because trust me, they can come out of left field here. Sometimes you can get a question like, tell me about a time when you ran out of time on a project and you had to give up. I would be sweating bullets in my seat if I were just getting that question and I weren't prepared for it. And the way that I prepare for my own interviews and that I'll pass along, I'll spread the wealth for you, is create a Word document. Don't even worry about the questions on this page. Don't even worry about any questions whatsoever. Just think back to your school experience. Think back to your work experience, the group projects that you worked on. Think about the work scenarios that you went home and you ranted to your friends about or ranted to your parents about, for example. The ones that you remember, and just create bullets describing the situation in explicit detail, really getting into that situation, task, action, and result. And again, don't worry about the question per se, just worry about the situation. And as you get more and more and more of these, like say, if you can find 10 examples, at that point, I would want you to Google example star questions and see how you can tie them to your answers. The goal of this exercise is for you to create modular answers that can be used on a multitude of different questions that get thrown at you so that you're always prepared. That way you can think a bit more, off the wall, you can think a bit more out of the box. And I mean, honestly, you can even keep this note sheet handy so that as you're preparing for interviews, you can just refer back to it. And it can be a living document. You can keep adding to it as you go through new scenarios there. And as a result, what happened was I was able to go through all these interviews and I was able to move into the very position that I'm in right now. So if you have any questions on that, I know it was a bit of a long-winded tangent there, but I can certainly clarify if you need me to. Now, let's see, when answering behavioral questions, it's critical that your answers remain, I would say, under 2 to 3 minutes. Oftentimes, your interviews may only last about 30 to 45 minutes. And so that way, there's enough time for any follow-up discussion and all that. So prepare short descriptions. Don't be super long-winded, and make sure you don't leave out any details. You don't want the recruiter to have to start like fishing for additional information that you may have forgotten. But now going into the final portion of the interview, of course, you're going to be asked, well, do you have any questions for me? And the only wrong answer to that is, yeah, I don't have any questions. I think I'm all set. You have questions. And when you are applying for the job, you're not going to be an expert on it. There's always going to be something that's not very clear to you. There's going to be something that's maybe having you be a little bit hesitant. And honestly, these are the types of questions you really want to ask. And I always say, especially if you're being interviewed by a hiring manager, meaning a manager from the business, from the department that's going to be hiring you, ask about professional development. Ask about what the training looks like for the role. Ask about what failure looks like. Ask about how your manager got, or how this manager got into the position that they're in, or how they like the company, or where you see this department going either 1 or 3 years down the line. It really goes to show that you're passionate about the position. It shows that you're cognizant of the fact that you're not perfect, that you're going to make mistakes, and that's we're human, and that you're motivated to overcome those challenges. And it furthermore shows that you're a forward thinker. Like, yes, I want this job. I also understand this is a stepping stone position that's going to lead to future opportunities a few years down the line. And these are all things you really want to ask about, since it'll really show that initiative, and it'll also clear up anything that may be confusing you about the role and helping you go from, all right, I think I want this role, to when do I start? Now, I know I'm going to be asked, what does the interview process look like for all of our tech opportunities at Vanguard? And I'm very pleased to tell you that it is not going to be this excruciatingly painful process. The longest period is really going to be from when you submit your application to when you hear back from a recruiter, because we don't use an automated tracking system, meaning every resume for our entry-level roles, at least, are going to be reviewed by a recruiter, but the recruiting team is relatively small, so it can take several weeks to go through all the applications. So there are positives and negatives to that system, but you can be rest assured that it's not going to just be auto declined. It will be reviewed. Now, once you hear back from a recruiter, the process is pretty quick. You're first going to get an online tech assessment. We use HackerRank. It takes about an hour and a half, and you can do it in the coding language of your choice. What those are is beyond my level of comprehension. I know we use Python, I know we use SQL, but anything else, I really don't know. Now, uh, once you've complete the HackerRank assessment, you'll then be invited to a phone screen with the recruiter. The recruiter is going to ask you more behavioral questions as well as profile questions, just as an initial screen. If you move forward, you're going to go into a second round interview with a hiring manager. That's going to be over video, over Microsoft Teams. There may be a case study, which is why this slide is up here. We would provide you with that between 2 and 5 business days prior to your interview. It may not. It depends on the role. And the goal of the case study is not to see how well you know the information. It is to really gauge that learning agility, really to see how are you able to read through this hypothetical scenario and effectively go through a role play situation with the hiring manager. So don't worry, when I applied to Vanguard in my second round interview, I literally had a fake phone up to my ear. There was the longest awkward silence with me and my hiring manager because I was completely blanking on it. I still got the job. You'll be fine. Now, the second round interview is going to be more technical in nature. They're going to ask you a lot more of those relevant questions to the role itself. There's going to be behaviorals, but you're also going to be able to learn a lot more about what the day-to-day looks like because that's what the hiring manager really lives and breathes throughout the role. So it can be a really great opportunity for you to pick their brain at the end of the interview. But then after this second round, we'll be able to determine if we'll be extending an offer or not. So very quick, it's that 2.5 rounds when you factor in the HackerRank and the case study, but it's really 2 rounds of interviewing. Now, some companies may have 9 rounds. Some companies may have you travel. Ours is completely virtual, thankfully. And honestly, yeah, it can be a little disappointing, of course. You're not being flown out to see the office or anything. But honestly, if I were flown out to an office to interview, I would be so nervous. I feel like I would much rather do the virtual interview, and I think many would probably agree as well. But so that takes me to the end of the presentation here. Thank you all again for having me, and I would love to open it up for any questions or comments there now.
Well, first off, thank you very much, Joseph, for this. This was amazing. Your presentation was incredibly helpful, so just thank you very much for that. We do have a couple pre-submitted questions for you if you got a little bit of time for that.
I do, yes.
And excellent. So the first one we have, I'm putting it in chat here. If I want to position myself as a strong candidate for Vanguard's tech roles after graduation, what steps would you recommend I take down? Now, I know you did share a slide with that previously, but just sort of quick overview, like in 2 minutes, if you could.
Absolutely, yeah. So I always say there is no one cookie cutter definition as to what makes the best candidate. But of course, especially if you're early in your college career right now, there are a number of things that you can do to really set yourself apart. If you don't get an internship with Vanguard, for example, you can get an internship elsewhere. That really just objectively will build up your resume. And some wisdom that I got when I was going into college, honestly, is do different internships in different areas if you can. This way you can find out what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like. I did an internship in international sales selling linens to hotels in Martinique, and I had to do French, like sales pitches in French. No, I am not a salesperson. It did not work out for me. But now I know. Now I know that sales was not the track for me, or selling B2B. But I digress. So getting an internship under your belt, joining student organizations, and furthermore, going into leadership positions when you can, because at the end of the day, a lot of these positions are leadership development. So showing that you have that affinity for leadership will set you apart. Now, on top of that, showcasing any projects that you've worked on, showcasing any supplemental certifications that you've completed. Some of you may be career changers. Some of you may be going to college to get your tech degree so that you can change industries. Remember, your previous industry can set you apart because of all the transferable skills that you've picked up on. Just because it wasn't what you want to do anymore doesn't mean that you didn't learn an immense amount of information about it. So showcase that, of course, in a way that you can really put onto a one-page resume or effectively articulate during an interview. But that's what I would really say. It's really a choose your own journey, do well in school, and be active, be as active as possible, and good things will happen for you. Now, I do see Sarah put in the chat, how do we apply for those opportunities if we are in our first year? So I assume you probably mean the Explorer program and the North Star program. Applications for that will go live on Handshake. There are also, let's see, if you send me your email, I can put you on an email list so that we can let you know once the application goes live. But we use just like when you filled out the intake form, the beginning of this presentation, it's through a system called Paradox. So that's where we have the application for these opportunities for you to learn more about the positions. Fortunately, at least for Explore, it's just a registration form. You don't actually have to apply for it, whereas North Star, you do have to apply. If you mean for the internships and the full-time the full-time opportunities, you would not want to apply for those as a first-year student. You're just going to get declined. You don't want that. You don't want that unless you're really putting in that full effort, and I don't want to waste your time with that. So once you're a second year, that's when you can really apply for the internships. And I always say to apply, because if it works out, great, you have an internship a year early. And if it doesn't, great, you can apply again the next year. No harm, no foul.
All right. Well, Joseph, we are at time, so we do have 2 more questions in the chat.
Yep.
Do you want to handle those?
I have time.
Fantastic.
I have time, yeah. So
right.
what skills are valuable in terms of... Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I see here what skills are valuable in terms of performance at a high standard at Vanguard. This is going to depend on the role, but honestly, it follows really the crew standard. I mean, some of them are really hard to kind of define, but in layman terms, at least I'll say, like, being candid. Honestly, this is something that's really a breath of fresh air about our organization, is that we value your opinion, even if it's not favorable. So say if something's not going well on your team, you are allowed to voice that to your team leader, and they will work with you to help mitigate that. You're not going to have to fear any type of retaliation or like being silenced by the company in order to keep like all positive voice all the time. So that is built into your performance, is whether you are candid. But furthermore, being able to drive outcomes, so being able to really perform in your work. That is where you're able to drive the metrics within your position. Whatever that may look like, it's going to look very different between application development versus cybersecurity, for example. But how well read up are you on new technologies, and how quickly are you able to adapt to new technologies? It's an ever-shifting landscape because both technology and finance are rapidly changing industries. So the way that we do work today could be very different from how we do work tomorrow. Let's see here. But at the end of the day, to be a high performer at Vanguard, you need to hit all of the check boxes for that crew standard, and then some. You need to be going above and beyond, taking on extra projects. You need to go above and beyond and volunteer to help out with, say, your adjacent teams, and taking on project management responsibilities and all of that. And if you're passionate about the work, honestly, it's easy. If you're not passionate, you're probably going to struggle a little bit. But at the end of the day, even if you don't hit all of those metrics, you typically do still receive at least some type of deserved compensation or deserved rating at Vanguard. How does Vanguard balance innovation, new tech, experimentation with risk compliance, and financial regulations in its engineering practices? That's a really good question. And that's honestly why we tend to be a little bit on the slower side when adopting new technology. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I really don't mean that when I say like Vanguard's a conservative company, that means that we're like politically conservative, or that we believe in like very like traditional values. I mean that we believe in having well-diversified portfolios for our clients. And it also means that we are very intentional with when we adopt something new. And as a result, it can make us seem a little bit slower. So while other companies are really going head over heels into AI, Vanguard is creating small controlled teams. And as we find success, we're building them out. And we are adopting new technology. Actually, Paradox is a new platform. We just adopted it last year. But so when it comes to risk compliance and financial regulations, we do have our global risk department, which analyzes just that. We integrated Copilot into Vanguard this year. Actually, we use Copilot within the Microsoft suite. Risk and security were fighting that for a very long time, until they were like, all right, I think we have all our ducks in a row and we can safely implement this for the whole organization. So it's just a matter of really going through those risk analyses and being intentional. So when you're working directly in technology, you wouldn't necessarily need to worry too much about what they're doing in risk and security because they'll communicate all of that to you. Let's see. Does Vanguard open positions to those who haven't had an internship? Yes, absolutely. And especially if you're applying for the internship, we don't expect you to have all the work experience in the world. So it's just a matter of how you like how you're really able to showcase your transferable skills, which is why having a previous internship can help make a difference, but it is not going to make or break whether you're qualified for the job. So if you are applying for full time and you don't have an internship, having some type of comparable experience, whether you went to a boot camp on top of SNHU, whether you've worked in tech like part time, whether you've done like consulting type of work, uh, there's really a multitude of things that you can do to help set yourself apart on that aspect. How do I send you my email? Should I just put it in
I
here? Yeah.
I
Let me put
also
my. Oh yeah. Mhm.
I also already shared in the chat the Vanguard's handshake account as well as your Vanguard handshake contact.
Perfect. And I just pasted my LinkedIn in here as well.
All right.
And let's see, it looks like Sarosh put in, I understand that this webinar is for current students in internship, but what if you are an alumni looking for entry-level technology positions? Would you please provide some information for these candidates? This is where IT Specialized is going to come into play, because for technology leadership program, you do need to be up to 1 year post-grad to qualify, since it is very much for current students who are graduating. But if you graduated in May, for example, you could still apply for TLP. Now, if you are an alumni, you are more than 1 year out and are looking for opportunities, this is where IT Specialized can really come into play as that entry level application engineer, because it is geared for those who have between 1 and 3 years of work experience. There is a mid level version of it for those who have between, I want to say, 4 and 7 years of experience. So you can apply to either depending on what experience level you're at. And since it's just a kind of a direct entry opportunity, it's going to be more, say, suited for just going straight into work without going into like orientation as you're getting used to the world of work. But
All
yeah, all
right.
of our opportunities. I'm having issues with getting our opportunities currently on Handshake, so I'm kind of working with my admin team on that. But for the time being, if you cannot find us on Handshake or if you can't find the opportunities listed, you can apply through vanguardjobs.com. And of course, you can identify that you go to SNHU through the application that way, and we can keep track of that metric. So if you don't see it on Handshake, check us out, vanguardjobs.com. I'll put the link in the chat right now. And definitely feel free to add me on LinkedIn if you have any other questions. I'm always happy to answer them. Uh, yeah, thank you all for having me once again.
Hey, excuse me. Thank you very much, Joseph. And I actually have a couple things I want to follow up with you about on other things after this chat. So, but thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to talk with our students and our alumni and providing them a sort of insight into your organization. We really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yep, anytime.
Yeah. And just so everybody is aware, this recording will be available through our YouTube channel, as well as you will be able to access it through your Teams as part of your snhu.edu login here. So thank you very much, and hope you all have a wonderful day.